hunt for points in the jungle, you begin your expeditions with the smallest possible dice results, which increase as you travel further into the unknown. Each turn you decide whether to continue the expedition or start a new one. Fortune favors the bold as you explore and press your luck, but be careful not to get stuck as the other players may benefit from your dice rolls.
Hey people, how's it going? On today's video, we are going to be talking about The Lost Cities Roll and Write by Kosmos. Now, this is a game for 2 to 5 players, ages 8 and up, and takes about 30 minutes to play. Let's go ahead and move to the table and we'll talk more about how the game plays. So let's get to it. Alright, so this is the Lost Cities Roll and Write game from Kosmos. So this is a pretty just standard, if almost dare say bare bones roll and write. This is all that comes in the box. You get a stack of these sheets for each player and then 6 dice to be rolling throughout the game. The point of the game is to get the most victory points. You're going to be doing that by taking die results and putting them on your paper, filling in these columns that will start off with negative points and go up to positive points. You keep playing until one of these 2 end game requirements come up, and one is if you see these numbers along this route, this row right here, all those 20s, so those are bonuses, and those are marked off when a player gets up to one of their columns and passes that. They'll mark that 20 off, and that'll be one less. That'll be one step closer to the end of the game. Once all 8 bonuses are marked off, at the end of that person's turn, the game will end and you will score up. The other way that you can go ahead and end the game is along this track that has the dice. I'll explain more about that in a second. If that whole track gets marked off by each player, they are when a player, let's say like this, when a player goes all the way up this track, they become exhausted. Now, when all of the players become exhausted, then the end of the game is triggered, and you will then score up your points and go ahead and see who is the winner. So at the beginning of the game, each player will get a piece of paper, and then they'll get a pen. Pens are not included. You'll just have to get yourself some kind of a pencil or pen, whatever you prefer. And then there'll be the 6 dice. So however you decide you want to do, whoever decides who wants to go first, you'll roll all 6 dice out, and then the active player, the player that is, first active player, however you want to interpret that, we'll pick 2 dice, one being one of the symbols and then one being one of the number die. So the way you start filling in this sheet is you put the lowest number that you choose on the first line, and then to ever add to one of these columns, you have to do a number that is equal to or greater than that number. So you want to try to have these. You start with the lowest number possible. Now, if you don't want to take any of these die, you can go ahead and refuse. That's where this track I was telling you earlier comes in. You'll go ahead and mark one of the die off. And then this will eventually give you points. Like I said, things start off in the negatives, but as you keep going, they'll get to positives. Now, with this track, it'll go from negative to positive, but if you get all the way to the top, if you mark off the last one, that's a step closer to the end game where you become exhausted and you get 0 points for that. It's kind of crazy. So sometimes you won't be able to take anything, so you'll have to refuse and mark one of these off, or you could choose to not take a die and mark one of those off. So on player's turn, just another quick overview. You pick one, the active player will pick 1 colored and then 1 numbered, and those will actually, like, say if I picked this, I'll take this over here, and then all other players can choose any of these dice. Now they don't the active player makes these 2 unavailable, but all other players will be able to choose from any remainder of the dice, any kind of combination, 1 symbol die and 1 of the number die, and mark their paper off. Now, as you're marking your paper off, you'll see these symbols as you go along or do your exploration on that column. And you'll come to these arrows. When you come and put a number on that square where it has an arrow, that will actually allow you to go ahead and forward, continue an expedition. So any of these columns you've used, you can go ahead and then go to another column or the same column and put the same number above, because again, you can do the same number or a number that is higher than the previous number. So those arrows allow you to forward any of these columns that you've already started. It has to be started. It cannot be a brand new column. And then these pots here, when you go ahead and put a number in one of those pots, you will go ahead and mark off this track. Again, starts in the negatives, and eventually you'll get to 100 if you get all the way to the end of that track. And so those are the two symbols you'll be interacting with as you go across, plus the bonuses like I was talking about earlier. Once you get all the way up this column and then you pass over the 20, you'll mark it off, and no other player will be able to get that 20 unless they're getting it the exact same turn you are. Everyone that gets it on the same turn will go ahead and everyone will get that. And then all the players that didn't get it that turn will go ahead and mark off that bonus. And so it's not available to them anymore. And so another thing that you can do in your turn when you're taking die, the zeros are 10s, but also if you have an incomplete or not a column that's not started yet, you can say, like, if I take this green triangle and the 0, I can go ahead and mark off this circle at the bottom. It doesn't start my numbers yet, but I can go ahead and mark off this circle, and what that does is it doubles my score. So it's a double-edged sword. If you don't get it out of the negatives, you're going to be double the negatives. But if you get it out of the negatives, then there's more points to be had at the end of the game. So that's all you really do on your turn. Active player will roll out, take the 2 die. All other players will pick whatever's left. You'll mark it on your board. And then after everyone's done, it'll move clockwise to the other person that is going to be the active player. Roll their die. Everyone takes their action. Active player taking their action first, or taking their die first, and everyone else gets to pick whatever's left over. And you'll keep filling this up until, again, one of the 2 endgame triggers happens, whether it's all the bonuses have been claimed. It doesn't have to be by one player, it's all players. Once all players have gone ahead, even if someone got most of them, any of them, anytime a player goes ahead and marks it off, everyone will go ahead and mark it off, or those that get to circle it. And so once all the players, whoever claims one of these bonuses, and if they're all claimed, then that is a trigger at the end of the game. And then the other one, like I said before, is this die track here. Once you go all the way up on this die track, you are exhausted. You still get to play, you still get to take turns, you just don't get points for that. But that's one of the triggers for the end game, because once everybody is exhausted, if everyone gets exhausted, that will end the game, because everyone's exhausted. You gotta stop the exploration. So that's a quick overview of how you play and how things are going and what you'll be interacting with and seeing throughout a game of Lost Cities Roll and Write by Kosmos. So let's go ahead and get into some final thoughts and pros and cons of Lost Cities Roll and Write. Let's do it. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the pros and cons of this game. So it's a small game, so there are not too many pros and there are not too many cons, because it's pretty much just a small game, and there's not much to it. So for the pros is that this game is pretty portable. This game is pretty easy to learn, pretty easy to teach. So if you've got people in your lives that you want to show a roll and write to, and that they don't really do heavier games, whether that's a board, card, roll and write, this is a good one to go ahead and show them and be like, hey, look, you played a roll and write, awesome. So it's a great game for that. And I think I talked about portability. This game pretty much be played almost anywhere that has a surface to roll the dice. You can even go ahead and laminate the sheets, 5 of them, because it plays up to 2 to 5. And then you have indestructible sheets as long as you don't do too much damage to it. And you can play that anywhere with dry erase markers and the dice. So it's pretty small, pretty portable, pretty easy to teach, and pretty easy to understand. So that's pretty much, oh, and also the price for this game is pretty good. It's $15 at the time of this video on Games and or Kosmos's website. $15 is pretty good for what you're getting for this game. So, like I said, not too many pros, and there won't be too many cons, but let's go into the cons. The cons for this game is it gets boring. After the second time we've played the game, it's more just because we play a lot of heavier games, or we play some heavier roll and writes, and the game just, after the second time, was like, oh, just got a little boring. And another thing I noticed, another con, is I feel like it overstayed its welcome through its second time through. Second time through, I was kind of like, okay, I kind of already know what's going on, and it feels like towards the end, towards like, I don't know, 15 minutes in the game, I'm like, okay, is this done yet? And I'm not like super impatient. It's just I've noticed it, and it just grows after playing each time. And so yeah, the game is just kind of gets a little boring. The playing it over again is just not really great. So yeah, the replayability is low because there's not too much strategy to the game. And that's pretty much what I have for cons. Again, small game, small amount of pros, small amount of cons. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this was a game that you might look into more for a quick little pocket game that you'll play as you're waiting for something, or as you're trying to show a family member, or maybe you have kids that would like to get into start getting them into games, and I think this would be a great one for that. And I hope you, I'll leave a couple links in the description of this video so you can see its BGG page and the Kosmos page in case you wanted to pick up a copy. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this video. I hope you all got something from this video, because that's the point. I want to go ahead and show off games and review games and, save people some money or help them spend some money on some games. So yeah, hope this was informative. I hope you had a great day. I hope you got to play some games. If you didn't, I hope you get to play some games soon. But without further ado, I'll see you guys next time, okay? All right. Toodles!